The Proud Boys trial continues with jury deliberations, and it's going on and on and on. And now, with jury notes 6 and 7, we're asking ourselves, are we going to get a split verdict? Are they going to say that they're guilty on some counts and not guilty on other counts? And what happens if those not guilty counts are the most important counts in the world to the U.S. government, which is the seditious conspiracy charges? Because without that, their whole fake insurrection narrative goes out the window. So what happens if it is a split verdict, or what happens if it's a hung jury and they can't come to conclusions on any of the charges? Do we do this whole thing over again? Does the government roll over in defeat? We'll see. But the jury hasn't come to a conclusion yet. They are asking questions. Yesterday, we saw jury notes 5 and 6 come in. Actually, yesterday, we saw jury notes 4 and 5 come in. And there was no response when we were here on the show, but we were able to pull those up. Remember, the jury note 4, the jurors are sitting in there, they're deliberating. They're like, I think he's guilty. I think they're not guilty. I think he's guilty on this one, but not conspiracy. They're all deliberating. And you know how group projects are. They're a lot of work. And so they've got this list that they put out yesterday. We've got a ton of appointments. Monday, next week, Friday, this week, another one, Monday, next week, Tuesday and Wednesday next week, all these different appointments. And we were asking ourselves, what the heck is the judge going to do with this? Is he going to say, okay, I guess we're accommodating you? And I think he might. We'll see. But there was no official order that was entered into the court docket. And you can see this is the actual docket. That was jury note 4. And normally in the pattern of this, what you'll see is the jury note comes in, then you see a court response. So you see the similar pattern here on May 1st. Entry 779 was jury note 5. Then we get entry 781, which is jury note response. 5 comes in, response to 5. We got 4 come in, but no response to 4. Why is that? Well, the judge may have addressed it with them in person or have just said, we'll comply. That sounds good. Thank you for the notice. So that is what happened yesterday. The jurors also sent in jury note 5. Can you please provide the exhibit numbers for the Donahoe water bottle throwing examples? And we thought to ourselves, that's an interesting question because Donahoe is not a charged defendant in this case at all. The other Proud Boys are. So why is the jury asking about a non-defendant and about him specifically throwing water bottles? Curious. Now, the response to that was, sure, here you go. The government exhibits that you requested are 440, 440AX, and so on. And so we don't need to spend much more time on that. They identified what they identified. Now, jury note 6 came in. And here's what they say. And you remember this handwriting. This person is basically the official scribe of the group. Says, all right, dear court, we would like clarification on a few items here. For counts 1 through 4, those are the conspiracy charges. The conspiracy charges that have more than one goal listed, can one agreed upon objective of the conspiracy simultaneously satisfy both goals? Whoa, we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. This is interesting. And the jury says now, we also did not receive instructions on what to do if the jury does not reach unanimity on a charge. How should we proceed in this scenario? Uh-oh. Government prosecutors don't like that. They don't like that at all. We might have a holdout in there. And when you juxtapose number 2 with number 1, they're asking about the conspiracy charge. They're asking about not being able to agree about the conspiracy charge. So the judge actually typed out a response to this one. And here is what he said. He said, all right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. He says, first, as you have already been instructed here, the object of a conspiracy is the illegal goal that the conspirators agree and hope to achieve. Very ambiguous. In counts 1 and 4, the charged conspiracies involve 2 separate goals. The government is not required to prove goals of the conspiracy. However, The government must prove at least one of those two goals beyond a reasonable doubt. If the government has not proved that at least one of the goals was a goal of the charged conspiracy, then your verdict must be not guilty. So if the government says that one of their goals was the goal of the conspiracy, but you don't think it was a goal of the conspiracy, in other words, they're saying that the conspiracy was to insurrect America or interfere with the peaceful transfer of power or obstruct the lawful order functional of government and all the things, right? Well, if you don't think that one of their goals was to disrupt the counting of the votes or to interfere with Mike Pence or whatever, then you can consider that not to be a part of the conspiracy that wasn't met. And the government has to get one of the goals. As to either or both goals, which you may find the conspirators agreed to promote, you must be unanimous on that sub-element. Like if you can't agree on that, this is gone. So to answer your specific question, with respect to the conspiracies charged in counts 1 and count 4, evidence of the same objective can, if you find, satisfy both of the two goals of the charged conspiracies simultaneously. So one set of facts can prove two goals. Second, if you guys are unable to reach a unanimous decision as to some defendant or count, you might send me a note. As you've already been instructed, if you send a note, you should do so without telling me how you are divided as to the defendant or the count. Don't give me the details. Just let me know. In addition, as you have already been instructed, at any time during your deliberations, you may return a partial verdict. In other words, a verdict of guilty or not guilty with respect to any defendant on any count. So you don't have to deliver them all at once. You can take this one by one and let us know piecemeal. But interesting questions. The jury is asking about the conspiracy and about unanimity. Now we have another question that got brought up, and another complex one. Look at this. They're getting into the nitty-gritty. They say, Your Honor, we would like clarification on jury instructions. On page 13, where you talk about organizations and persons not present, it states in your jury instructions, it says, you should not make any inferences or speculate about other individuals you have heard about in this trial or whether they have been charged with crimes. Okay. So we shouldn't consider external evidence or make inferences about anything that's outside of this. Okay, they say. However, count 8, which is regarding the illegal water bottle, that appears to require us to make inferences about a person who is not a defendant in this case. Count 8. Can you provide clarification on how theories of liability could potentially apply to the defendants in relation to such an individual? Whoa! What the heck kind of a question is this? A good one. A really good one. Yeah. Why aren't the government prosecutors charging other people who are not a party to this case? You're asking us to make inferences about a person who is not a defendant. That's Charles Donahoe. And remember, Charles Donahoe, they asked a question about that earlier in another note, in jury note 5. Please provide the exhibit numbers for the Donahoe water bottle throwing. They look at the water bottle, him throwing water bottles, and they say, he's not being charged in this case. Why is he not being charged? And why is this guy being charged in count 8? But he's not. And the jury instructions say don't make inferences about other people. But then that count tells us to make an inference. And so we want to know about theories of liability, about how they apply to the defendants in relation to that guy. So they're asking a great question. Thank you! Exclamation point. Whew. Digging into this a little bit. So we did have some proceedings. Now Judge Kelly is back on the bench to discuss. And we go back to Roger Parloff to review. He tells us, Judge Kelly's back on the bench to discuss the responses. The defense lawyers are not all on the same page about how to respond to this. All of them prefer a less specific answer. Prosecutor is speaking about jury note 7. Judge Kelly says, it's remarkable to me the inability of lawyers in this case to shut their mouths while other lawyers are speaking. Wow. So now they recess, and Judge Kelly types up his response. And here's what his response says. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been instructed on the theories of liability which apply to count 8. The court can provide no further clarification. Figure it out. You're on your own. This isn't law school, jurors. We're not educating you on theories of liability. Do your job. Signed, the judge. And so that brings us to the close of the day. They've been deliberating for 27 hours now. Deliberations tomorrow will only go until noon due to a juror commitment. And so they will be done for the day. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow to see what other jury notes they have for us and whether they return a verdict. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you back here tomorrow.